Okay. Well, hey, good morning. We're back. We're going to see a little bit about exterior finishing in this episode. I only have really two different products to look at here. The first of which we've already talked about a little bit, but they're the spar varnishes. So we've got it in a spray can, and then we also have the one in a quart can. That quart can is actually water-based. I did have this brand in a brushable form, in other words, in like a quart can, but I used all that up. But I'm going to show you a project that I did with that. I don't really feel like I need to show you how to apply these because you apply them just like the polyurethane that you already saw a video on. Same rules apply. You stir it, don't shake it, brush it on, look for runs and drips, make sure that you wipe those away, and then you just let it dry thoroughly. And you can give it a quick sanding the next day you give it a quick sanding. Then you can reapply and you can build up that finish and make it really durable. The other product that we're going to talk about today that we're actually going to see me apply on some redwood is actually a deck stain. It's a penetrating oil finish. So there's all kinds of different deck stains out there. I've had good luck with this one. It is staggeringly expensive though, but I know that it's good and that it'll last. So there's always that trade-off, right? Kind of the you get what you pay for concept. Just like all other finishes though, you take a stick and stir it up. And this stuff was already mixed up pretty well. You see there's no big blobs on the bottom of it. I'm going to stir that up, and then I'm going to apply it to some redwood. You can really put this on any wood that you're going to be putting outside. It's an oil finish, so it soaks in. Much like when you're using Danish oil, much like when you're using stain, when we were talking about staining projects. I'm going to be applying it with a cheapo little throwaway brush, but what I think is really amazing with this is when you apply it, it soaks in so fast. It's like you can hear the wood just sucking up all that stain. That's really good for it because you want that finish in there to help protect it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on and I'm going to leave that for quite a while. I'm going to leave that at least overnight, if not a couple days, and then I'll come back and I'll apply more. The last thing that I should say is oftentimes it's recommended that when you are using a product like this, whether it's on a fence, on outdoor furniture, on a gate, on a deck, any of those things, a lot of times those are made with types of wood that are sold green. In other words, they haven't been dried in like a kiln. In fact, they might be relatively freshly cut. And what they recommend is that you leave that for even a period of a couple months to let that wood dry out a little bit so it will more readily soak this stuff up. So if you just built a deck or you just built a fence, it'll look amazing and you want it to stay looking amazing. What you're going to have to do is give it a little bit of time to dry out on its own. So applying this, super easy. Let's go take a look. Okay, so here we are with our redwood. This actually is going to be applied onto the metal gate that I was using in the painting episode. So this is as simple as it gets. You just apply the stuff. The first coat is super easy because you don't even really need to worry about runs or sags. They will just absorb on their own. Here's the huge bonus of a finish like this, a deck stain, if you will. You can reapply them. So let's say 5-10 years down the road, you decide, hey, I want my deck, I want my gate, I want my fence, whatever, to be looking like new again. Then what you do is you just wash it. You pressure wash it. You wash it with a brush and some soapy water. Get the dirt out of it. There's also some other like stain removers and stuff where you can like stain, like you might have spilt something on it or it's just looking dirty, not stain like a finish. And you can clean it, make it all look pretty again, and you can reapply this. It's so easy to reapply. That is so much different than with like the spar varnish that we're going to be talking about in just a moment. With the spar varnish, what happens there is if you want to reapply, you have to sand it. You have to maybe use a wood stripper or a paint stripper on it, and that's a huge pain because honestly you never get it looking even. It really is just a pretty awful experience. If you can avoid using if you can avoid sanding things and refinishing like that, or you can avoid using a chemical paint stripper, avoid it at all costs, because it's no fun. Okay, so that's done. I haven't done the backside yet, but I'm going to let this soak in a little bit. And like I said before, I'm going to let it soak in, and I'm going to do the backside. After I do that backside, then I'm going to just leave it for a while. And in a few days, I'm going to try to reapply a little bit more, see if it'll take any more. I basically want it to take as much as it can, but sure makes the wood awfully pretty. Hopefully it'll stay that way for a long time to come. Okay, I wanted to show you this little project because this involves actually the spar varnish, and it also involves that deck stain that we saw just a moment ago. These are old fence boards. We had a fence that the post rotted and it was falling down and all kinds of stuff, so we saved the old fence boards and we cut them up, and I made this bar for our outdoor patio area. So we made it look kind of rustic with these old boards, and then I put some of that deck stain on there to preserve the look of them for a long time. It made them darker. I don't think my wife likes that as much, but I like that they're going to remain looking good for a long time. Then also, this top is cut from an old log, part of a tree that we had taken down, and we slabbed that with a chainsaw and we planed it nice and smooth. I've recently just cleaned it off, so there's a little bit of water on it, but it is a very smooth, hard surface on here. That's done with a spar varnish, so it's going to last a long time. The only problem with that, as I mentioned before, is if I ever do need to refinish this, I got to sand this all down, and it's going to be kind of a pain when you have the natural edge of the wood like you do on here. So this is a fence that we built a few years ago, and I wanted to use this as an illustration of something that you could watch out for with exterior woods. This fence is actually made out of redwood, and one of the things that I did when I built this fence is I used stainless steel screws. You could use nails, but I used stainless steel screws. The reason why is, one, stainless steel will not rust, so it'll last a long time. But the other reason is some woods, especially woods that last well outdoors, have a high content of what's called tannic acid or tannins. That tannic acid can react with rust, and it forms black streaks on the fence, and I didn't want that. I just wanted it to not have those streaks. So I want to show you what happens if you don't use stainless steel. Even if you use one that is galvanized, meaning it's zinc coated, eventually that's going to rust as well. So let's take a quick look and see what that's going to look like just over here. So this is a fence that has actually boards that are nailed on. They were galvanized nails, but look at these black streaks that come down from the nail holes. That's from the rust, the iron ions in the metal reacting with the tannic acids in the wood, and they form this black pigment, and you can see it's a streak that comes down from each one of those nails. So if you wanted to prevent that from happening, you should use something like a stainless steel fastener. They're more expensive, but they stay good forever.